with you again, and hopefully you can all see a few slides. Before I do anything, of course, I will introduce myself. My name is Christina Ioannidis. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Aquitude, where we specialize in building engagement between companies and their most important stakeholders, their customers and their employees. And I created this platform called Top of Our Game a few years ago. In fact, it was in 2014, so 6 years ago. And the whole premise of Top of Our Game is to showcase the extraordinary women that are present in this amazing part of the world. Now, the background to this is that for many years, I was living in London and I would travel into the UAE. I would be flown in actually to run training and leadership development programs for women in the region. And what struck me was that there were actually more amazing women in this part of the world than I had met actually in the West. So this is one of the reasons why, yeah, when I saw that there's so much talent here, I created the female Majlis, and which is why also the name of the Majlis is, it's obviously very regional name. And the idea behind it and the whole premise behind it is for women to support women, to share success stories, but also challenges. And we've been running the Female Majlis since 2015 in person. Obviously now we've had to take it virtually. As Naila knows, who's been with us for many years, we ran these events in a private venue, always maximum 15 women, and we did two things. There is a part of a part of inspiration, and then a second part, which I call peer mentoring, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. So I'm delighted to have Naila with us this evening. Every event we have one extraordinary woman, and today it is Naila al Moosawi. Before I move on to Naila, I'd like to give you a bit of an overview on what is Top of Our Game and the platform and why it's there and how it works. So Top of Our Game essentially is a 3-level program where through social media, digital content, we generate engagement with women from across the region, whether from the UAE, Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, and we've got the Top of Our Game YouTube channel and website. This provides a filter, if you like, into the Female Majlis, which is all about ongoing learning and peer mentoring through events, in person and physical, inshallah, when COVID is dealt with. And at the 3rd level, we believe that women have everything it takes to be empowered. This is one of the reasons I do not use the word empowerment. I believe women have power. What they sometimes need is a little bit of refining and recalibration to fuel their ambition. And that's the 3rd level, where we do talent development, either on an individual basis or a corporate basis. As I mentioned earlier, I used to be flown over to run corporate programs, and this is one of the reasons why I fell in love with this region and moved over myself to this amazing country. So today, the virtual Female Majlis, we have some rules of engagement. We hope that you can be open to a new experience. Now, what we will do is something that you may not have experienced in this guise before, and that's fine. It is something that I've been doing for many years, and I'm glad to have you with us. This is a safe environment, so we will be holding conversations about things which sometimes may be challenging, particularly for women. I know we have a couple of men here with us, and I'm hoping you're enlightened men and understand sometimes the challenges that women face may be slightly different to those of men, or they may be similar in just a slightly different guise. And when we come to the peer mentoring piece, we will be holding conversations with other women who are in the region. So you will be paired with someone else, okay, who is actually in this region or from beyond. So when you do that, please do work on the exercise that I will give you, because it's important for us to have these conversations and find ways to connect and help each other. Once the peer mentoring piece is over, what I would like to do is make sure that you get connected. So if you have spoken to someone that you haven't had the opportunity to exchange contact details, you can of course reach out to me, and if they're happy to share their details with you, we can make it happen. The reason why we do this is because it's all in the power of the network. As we saw earlier, Naila is already recommending to one of our guests, Cynthia, a connection. So this is what today is all about. So thank you very much for being open in order to do this. Now, this is the bit that we move to the amazing conversations that we're going to have with Naila al Moosawi, sorry. I'm going to stop my share so we can all focus on Naila. Naila, thank you so much for being here with us. I could introduce you, but you are a woman who's done so many things. I would be grateful if you can give us a small introduction of your career. And I do have to mention your starting point of being the youngest female Emirati air traffic controller. And I would love if you could just give us a little bit of a summary of your career since then.
So thank you, Christina, for inviting me on top of her game. And I'm very excited to meet people. And I do promote what Christina is saying about connecting and empowering women and helping each other any way that we can. And this is what this platform is all about. I've done Top of Her Game live, very, very intimate group of networking. I hope in the nearer future we'll go back to the normal state and we will have that, and highly recommend all of you to join, including the men who are here maybe. Christina.
Yes, we're inclusive.
So I will step back and talk a little bit about myself on a personal level. So I'm a mother of 5, a fantastic 5, that's what I call them, and of a super fantastic man who's supported me across my journey. I have 5 siblings, a boy and 4 girls. My mother was very resourceful in pushing us to do the best that we can. She as an individual was also very ambitious and in nature very adventurous. My father was extremely competitive and challenging in many ways. Whether I got the best or the worst of both, I'm yet to discover. Growing up, I was very competitive as a child, very, very competitive. So there was always a win-lose scenario. There was never a win-win scenario. In addition, I always wanted to stand out, whether I wanted to do something good or bad. The bottom line was to stand out, to win. Back then, when you have that kind of character or attribute where you want to stand out, you want to speak, you want to win, that's considered being rebellious back in the 80s and in the 90s. Times have changed, thankfully, and basically to be successful these days, this is how you need to be. I would do such things as, I would take things from home and sell them in school, whether things that, in my opinion, I thought my mom didn't need them. So I sold them and made money in school sometimes doing that. And then I was highly competitive as an individual. At the age of 12, I had decided that I wanted to do law, and for financial reasons and lack of financial ability, that was not possible. So I pondered across what to do next after I had graduated, because I had just understood that I couldn't do it after I graduated. I always wondered how the tower worked, because I used to travel back and forth on that road very frequently. and it was always dark, and as we passed. So I said, and my father told me a little bit about, what people do back then, because he worked for a while in the airport in the operations part much earlier. I picked up the phone on one of the days, and I called the ATC department. I was easily transferred to the SATCO, the Senior Air Traffic Control Officer, who was called Jim Sawyer. It was really easy. It's like calling the grocery shop, literally. These days, if you want to call the air traffic department, you can just forget if anybody would be able to connect. They were very surprised that I was a UAE national. They had to ask me several times because they were not completely convinced. We arranged a meetup at a coffee shop in the airport the following week. It was a very casual. I shared my documents. The guy was very, very pleasant, and he was very excited to see me and see my documents. And I proved to him that, yes, I am a UAE national. So he was very excited and said, he said, I remember that. He said, I finally found gold dust. I can't wait to speak to the operations director about this. So I'm like, okay, if he likes me, then it's done with, it's a closed deal. And he called me after a week and gave me the bad news, saying that the operation director declined because I was a lady and working with all the men in the tower, and they didn't have any facilities for women, rest facilities or toilets. And it's unheard of having a woman working in the tower, so just let it go. I was highly disappointed at that time, so I spoke to my parents about it, and I asked them to vouch for me and go to speak to Mohammed Ahli and convince him. We all went together, both my parents, my mom and dad, and when I look back and I remember, I think you were really brave to have done that. When he asked the secretary to go in, there were lots of men in that room, and it was very big, I think, of both my parents to ask Mohammed Ahli to allow me, and they take full responsibility and they support me with what I want to do in my career. He tried hard to discourage them and said that he would take no responsibility, but he finally had accepted it. There was lots of people in that room that made me as an individual feel a little bit inferior, and also I would think, he could have rejected and caused my parents to be embarrassed as well, but yet they moved ahead with that. So he finally accepted, and I joined. I joined in the Met office. I worked my way to the briefing office. I broadcasted weather. I learned my aviation alphabets in 2 days, where it took people 1 month to learn. So I felt, oh, okay, I'm doing good. And then I moved up into the tower as an assistant air traffic controller in 2 months. I think there was a positive discrimination to being a female in that environment at that time, moving up to the tower. And I also, because of the language literacy, I think that's what supported me. So a little bit about my background in how I moved up in my career. Christina, do you want me to go ahead and discuss about my career path all the way to the board, or do we want to stop here?
I'm happy to just remind everyone 2 things, if you don't mind, Naila. So thank you for that great pause. Firstly, the theme of the event today is career transformation in turbulent times, or in unprecedented times. And Naila, for me, who's going to go through her if you like, her personal journey, is a great example of someone who has been extremely fluid in her career, but extremely focused as well. So there's some amazing learnings that comes from that. On a second note, whilst we're talking, feel free to reach out and ask any questions on chat. there is a chat facility. So if you click on the bottom of your screen, you should be able to somehow make the chat, bring up the chat box. We've already had a couple of comments on there. And then what we'll do is at any point that we have a pause, we'll ask the questions, or we might do it after we do our peer mentoring. Either way, feel free to come forward with questions. So Naila, please do carry on now and tell us tell us your personal journey.
So after moving to the tower, this is where it gets a little bit exciting, because it started to get challenging. Being not only the only female, being very young, you just come out of school, you haven't even gone to college, and this is your first job. I became the first female air traffic controller aerodrome in 1997. And then I moved out. I'll talk about my challenges later. I moved out being an air traffic controller in 2000, moved to oil and gas, and again, being the first female site manager, area manager for petrol sites in the retail side there. I moved then from that to multinational construction industry and worked up my career ladder to become an HR director at the GCC level. In parallel, I was building my family and as well as my career. In 2013, I became one of the very few certified board members. I think today we are at least about 15 to 17 ready now board members, certified board members. In 2014, I was shortlisted twice for the DMAC board. From 2000 to today, from 2014 until today, I had applied to many board positions. I was successfully shortlisted for the DMAC board twice in this period, for the Dubai Entertainment Board, Takaful Board, Drake and Skull, NHS Foundation UK, Universities of Glasgow Foundation in Scotland, and in 2019 I got 3 board positions. All 3 together came in 2019. Arcade Global, the UAE Disease and Genetic Disease and Association, and as well, I think Caroline knows I was a board member at the Ignite School representing the parents. So that is been the highlights of my career side. There have been a lot of challenges in my career. I was just telling somebody a few weeks ago. I'm more excited about the things that has disabled me rather than enabled me, because of those disables, because of those blockers and barriers that people have created for me. If it was personal or intentional, I don't, it doesn't matter. But I think that's what made me stronger and made me more determined and resilient. So going up the career ladder, it was hard to be as a female in a setting where they have to watch, men have to watch what they say, particularly in the tower. They have to be careful because people can be quite vocal, and the choice of words they use, particularly when only men are around. It was always easier to work, to be very frank, it was always easier to work with expats rather than my national compatriots. They were very dear to me. Some of them were by my batch members, but we have to respect the cultural setback when a woman is integrated in a system where they was not there in the system. It was not there in the system before. They have to kind of change their whole life setting to accommodate me. It is what it is. I made the best of what I could. I remember an incident where they didn't have a toilet. They didn't have facilities. I was warned about that. So they locked one of the toilets just for me. So all the 60 men had to use one toilet where Naila was locked one toilet. It didn't make any sense. So I said, I don't want you lock any toilets for me or any special rooms. Leave it. I will lock the door if I have to go to the toilet. I don't want to make this difficult for anybody. So so this is one of the things that you have to deal with, and you have to adapt and be flexible in such settings. I always felt the pressure of setting a benchmark. I felt like I need to prove to myself and to others. I didn't think that it would be as hard as I thought it would be. I thought it would be exciting, working in the tower, wonderful. But then, I didn't know it would come with all this luggage. As well, on the other side of the frequency, there was a lot of curiosity from pilots because they've never heard a female voice. So they would get distracted as individuals, and I was very good at distracting them as well. So I had to kind of, learn how to change my ways, to be focused, to be assertive, to be firm. Sometimes I have been considered to be too firm. But I think being an air traffic controller, it had molded me into an individual that I am today, because it was my first job and it required a lot of discipline. So at times I felt very lonely being the only female. I must admit to that, because there were three types of groups, population. The diversity were the expats, the nationals, and there was Naila. So it was challenging, but yet it was not something that cannot be accomplished. So that is a little bit about my journey until date. I will share a little bit about how it is to be a board member and the challenges of getting on board, because I think that was the next exciting career path that I am on today. And also the initiative that I'm working on today, I'll talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah, please do. I mean, because this is one of the questions I have for you is, how do you manage these transitions? Because you went from ATCO, then you went to the oil and gas side, then you went into petrol station, then you went into multinational corporations, different guises, moved up the ladder, board positions, which we know how hard you worked, having worked together on those. How did you manage all of this? Because that's a lot in a very short space of time, and motherhood, all 5 of them.
I'm going to be speaking in one of the events after a few weeks, and I think the title of that event is "You Can Have It All." I'm not going to say that it was challenging from moving from one industry to another. I'm not going to say that at all. It happened when it happened. It was an opportunity for me, and each opportunity presented itself at the right time. And it may have not been something that I was doing in the past, but because it was in my early career age, I was able to kind of transition myself from one role to another very easily. I have those transferable skills to be able to multitask and sit on different types of roles and make it successful. So for me, I guess it's the agility that you would have in an individual, where it lets you have the ability to be able to transform and become agile, to move from one position to the other. As well, I must say that I'm very organized, and I work around this plan that irritates a lot of people in my family, that everything has to happen at the right time and with the right place, and we have to organize everything. And I think that has it comes to an advantage to me, because then I can have it all this way. I can have my family, I can have this exciting career journey, and I want more, and why not?
Okay, well, thank you for that. So, can you tell us a little bit more then about your board positions and what? Because we actually met, I think one of the first times was in 2014. Was it in the UK through Hakama?
Yes.
Yeah, and when I arranged a private breakfast, right, with three amazing women in the UK, and so that's when we started working together. And I remember you were very, very focused, and that's one of the things that attracted me to you. It's that singularity. It was, I want to do this, and I will do it on my terms. So tell us about that journey, because it's been a long time. It's been 5 years now. So 2019 were the three that came together like a bus. They all come together at once. But that was 5 years of solid work on that.
Yes, yes. Um, Obviously, meeting Christina in the UK, you know, kind of put everything together, and she was definitely one of my enablers. Just before we got my directorship certification, we went on a board tour, and we met Christina, which was one of the plan of the tour, and she put us in touch with lots of board members and interesting connections in the UK as well. Coming back over here, I joined the female Majlis on the following week. I said, you know, Christina was probably one of the very few people that I connected in that tour that I stayed in touch with, because it was a quality connection and a practical connection. She was here in the UAE, and she had a quality network, and she had the same ambitions in driving success for women. And then I partnered with Christina, and we put some work together on my profile. Today, the profile that I have as a board member was made by Christina. So whoever's listening to this, and I don't know how many people are on at the moment, she just turns magic out of nothing, and she's good at what she does. And she's a true mentor, and she has the same ambitions as other people would have, and whether you like it or not, she'll make sure that you drive it. So that's what's good about her, and how she drives her mentorship programs. So I joined a few. I got rejected like so many times. The Drake and Skull, the NHS Foundation, the DEMAC board, Takaful, Emirates Refreshment. This is just some of them. I was getting depressed when I was actually writing them down, and I'm and to a point I'm like, you know, but it's like you swim so far, you swim too deep, you can't return back. You have to continue swimming and find that safe shore. And an island, and but it actually paid off. In 2019, I landed my 3 board positions. Some are non-profit boards, and I do plan to get back on a full-time role, particularly maybe join a multinational. I still feel I do have the energy to do this in parallel to Amal Counseling for a Better Tomorrow, which is a non-profit organization that I've set up with a team of volunteers. My volunteers, some of them are here on air with us today. Thank you, guys. And we're giving back to the community.
That's brilliant. I mean, I'd love to know more about Amal, and I'm sure everyone here will be interested. In a few seconds, though, you mentioned the word mentoring. How is it important for particularly women to have mentors or sponsors? And if so, if it is necessary, what strategies would you encourage them to follow?
Christina, you said women to have mentors. I think men need mentors more than women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the
Can you do
majority
that?
of them
We
are
give you
still
more.
here.
We give you men. Can you mentor them?
I think we're seeing a thumbs up. We only have one man, I think, left. I think it's just he's still here. I'm not sure we've got any other man, unfortunately, left.
It's
We had three
okay.
when we started off.
I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, as good as you do with women, I think it's something that you need to offer to the other gender, because they would also need it, and I think it would be a good idea to promote
Yeah,
diversity that way.
I wrote a whole book on diversity and what men need to do to create
Yes.
gender savvy organizations, which includes that. But in this particular context, we're looking at the transferable skills for the majority of the audience here on this event, which are women. I completely agree with you. We do need to mentor men. So in terms of the sponsors and the mentors, irrespective of gender, let's make it gender neutral then. How important are they, and what are the strategies to identify them and get them
Mm.
to support you?
I was looking forward to kind of share this with you. First of all, I think anybody who ever seeks mentorship it has to be very serious, very serious ambition, and at least in their mind, if not written on a piece of paper, to have a 3-year plan of what they want to achieve in this short term. It's very important that an individual like that to have a mentor and coach, which is a key success factor, in my opinion, in today's times, due to the competition and the limited window of opportunity. So you need a mentor to have the right mentorship experience. They should have a track record of delivering results with the mentee. They should be credible and diverse in their experience, and exposure to they come from different industries. They've faced success and failures, and as well, a mentor should have a quality network, in my opinion. A quality network is important. It's about quality, not quantity, because this is where your mentorship can connect you and guide you to the right networks in order to enable you to move forward. So it's a critical piece to success, Christina. And unfortunately, I don't think people understand this piece. It's still quite new to people. It's more of a luxury. That's what in their mindset, or it's good to have if and when there is. But if an individual is planning to reach a certain goal, mentorship is a critical piece that will enable that person to reach those goals. Otherwise, a 10-year-old goal will happen in 20 years if it so happens.
Right. Thank you for that. And can you tell us from the you mentioned something about transferable skills in the beginning of your introduction, that you had transferable skills and that's what facilitated your transition into other industries. How is it possible for individuals to identify their transferable skills? It's not something that we talk about it in HR environments, but practically, how is it for individuals who may be on this event? How can they identify what skills are transferable and in what industry they may be more relevant?
Well, I think I'll speak around, if it's okay with you, Christina, around the transferable skill, particularly in these times of crisis.
Please, yes.
Okay. So in today's economy and in crisis, the transferable skills are particularly important in this emerging market and in the GCC. As an individual, you have to be transformational to qualify to be in the race, in any race, whether you are in a white collar or in a blue collar. This is an emerging country. It's made for some people and it's not made for some people. And to have this transformational in my opinion, you have to have agility and resilience. five areas I think we need to have. Transferable skills is necessary to have to become transformational in this economy, crisis, and emerging markets. Agility and resilience. It's very critical to demonstrate leadership in these times. Constant change is happening, and displaying agility in leadership is key. Then we have the resilience part. You see, resilience is typically defined is the capacity for somebody to be able to move from a difficult situation or another event to another really quickly. That's resilience. It's not like a trampoline where you just you're jumping up and down one moment, and the next and then you fall down, and then it's the end. It's like climbing a mountain, I think, resilience, without a map, and it needs time, it needs strength, it needs people who support you, and therefore you will likely experience setback, but then you'll have to come back, and when you get onto the top of this mountain, you look back and say, oh, I've come this far, and therefore I've achieved something. So the other thing is, I think, entrepreneurship and creativity. This is, I think, Christina's favorite part, entrepreneurship. Isn't it, Christina?
All of them are.
And creativity. Christina is very, very strong in entrepreneurship and creativity. I mean, she sets examples for us all, myself particularly, and basically in the mentorship goals, if somebody has, and if she would be your mentor, if entrepreneurship is not there, she will make sure that she injects it into the process as well, which is really good, because this is what you need. You need to have creativity and entrepreneurship in your transferable skills, particularly during these crises, to be able to problem solve, face all sorts of problems in the workplace, and then also problem solve when you're remote, because everything is remote now. Creativity is a big demand, as you know. Organization today, whoever's remain, are only working on sustainability mode. They are surviving in that sense. And the talent and the skills required today is to be innovative, to be able to solve problems, think outside the box, come up with unique propositions. And this is how strong the competition is in the market today. And this is one of the critical skills that they look for when people are employed. The other thing is the technology literacy. Again, our queen Christina here, she is the guru of technology. She comes from a very strong technology background as well, and we have to navigate with technology, whether we like it or not. I have come a long way in the past few months in learning different things in technology, and it's definitely my area of development. Whether we like it or not, as I said, technology has taken over, taken over our lives. It is my area of development to become more sophisticated in this area. And artificial intelligence and cyber, I think, is going to be in demand in the next decade. Lastly, I think personally that the last thing that is really, really important in this emerging market and times is strategy versus operations. A lot of people either are subject matter experts in strategy, or they do operational work. So if you were a strategist, you won't roll up your sleeves because you've done operations 20 years ago and it's like you're going backwards. But that's not the case, because from operations is where you get your experience, and it's always good to reconnect. But what is really important in today's time is to have the ability to swap and hop between operations and strategy, and we don't have the luxury to become subject matter gurus or experts, because that's the industries don't require this in these times. We need to do it all. We need to do it well, and we need to show that flexibility and resilience and agility while we're doing it. So I think these are the transformational skills that is required and that are transferable from one organization to another, whether it's professional or personal.
That was fantastic, Naila, because we do have a lot of people who might be going through that transition period, that transformation period. So for them to be able to position themselves against those 5 transferable skills or traits is fantastic. Thank you for this. We have a couple of questions that have come through, but I hope it's okay with everyone if we now move on to our peer mentoring, where we will give you a little exercise to perform with someone else who is on this call. The technology will do it for us, speaking of technology. And then when we come back to this forum, main forum, you don't have to do anything. We can then have the final Q&A with the amazing Naila. So if that's okay with everyone, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to just give you what I would like us to work on. Just bear with me 1 second while I find the right place. Okay. I have to make it look seamless now that Naila has highlighted my technology theoretically correct. I'm trying to look cool, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to pair you with someone else who is in this on this event. Okay, so the technology will make it happen automatically. I think we are an odd number, so someone might have to sit it out, but what I'd like you to do when you are paired with someone else, and you have 8 minutes to do that, introduce yourself with whoever you've been talking to, will be talking to, or will be paired, and discuss your biggest challenge. Now, you won't have a very long time, but I want you to really share what's your biggest challenge that you have at the moment, and think of how the other person can help you. Sometimes it takes someone else who is outside our world and our circle of influence to come up with a new idea and spur us into action. So this is why I'm asking you to do this. So think of your biggest challenge at the moment and be open. How can the other person help you, and vice versa? You will have 8 minutes in total, which means you're going to have to speak very fast. So this will keep you on your toes. So screenshot this, write the question down, and now I'm going to stop the sharing. And I'm going to put everyone into the breakout room. So I'm going to split you up into the breakouts. 8 minutes, and then you come back here. Please, please, please stay on the line, because there are much more exciting stuff that we will discuss with Naila. So without further ado, I'm going to create the rooms, and hopefully everyone will be placed. You have to click a link, by the way, that says join. Okay, so hopefully you will see it. Click join and join the other person who's in your room. Hello, how was it? How was it to be connected with people who were outside of your normal circle? I'm
Christina, may I speak? Is that all right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. First of all, like Naila speaking and being so open about her story really just sets the tone. And then Christina, with your professionalism and just warmth and all of it. So the person that I was able to meet with, she and I had this beautiful conversation instantly. There was no pretense or caution. We were able to right away just be open with each other. So thank you for that.
Oh, brilliant. That's lovely to hear. It's exactly 8:30, by the way, in the UAE, and the event normally needs a little bit longer before we wrap up. Is it okay with everyone if we have another 15 minutes together just to go through the final Q&As that we had? Yeah, thumbs up. Excellent. Thank you very much, Nadia. And thank you for everyone for putting their cameras on as well. I have a little poll before we carry on. So thank you, Cynthia, for the feedback. And thank you, Dina, for your feedback as well, that it was good. So I'd like to ask you two very quick questions. So this is the poll. Please vote. So the first question is the question is, would you be prepared if you needed to transform your career? And the answers are either yes or no. And do you believe you will be doing what you're doing today in 10 years from today? So please, if you can vote, tell us yes or no, and it would be a very interesting insight, because it is all about career transformation and having that agility, as Naila very eloquently told us. So would you prepare it if you needed to transform your career today? 83% say yes, 25% say no. And then do you believe you will be doing excellent? Very interesting that 67% of those who voted on question 2 think they will not be doing what in 10 years, will not be doing the same thing they're doing today. So for me, this is fascinating to see. So thank you very much for taking the time to vote. That's great. We had nearly everyone polling. That was very useful for me. So here, let me share the results. Can you see them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so this is very interesting insight. So thank you very much, everyone, for doing this. Now back to the amazing Naila. We had a couple of questions, Naila, as you were talking. The first one was from Nadia. And Nadia said, I would like to know where you think your determination came from to keep pushing in your career.
You know, each individuals, they have their own fears. I have mine as well. And one of my fears is losing my individualism, my independence. And you know, I asked myself that today. That's why I'm sharing that with you. And that's my fear. My fear is losing my independence. And if I don't get more, if I don't achieve more, and if I don't create an environment of where I belong, where I can be comfortable to give back and to take and add value, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, basically, in my mind. And that was my drive, I think.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. And thank you for being so open, by the way, because it's not an easy question, that one. Kaya had another question. Do you think a mentor can help you identify a 3-year plan, or do you think people need to have that 3-year goal before they start the mentorship?
Well, it's a very good question. I think every individual, if you can sit back and just think, you would have at least a 3-year plan in your head. Whether a plan can be you don't have a plan. I just want to enjoy life. I want to stay at home. I want to cook. I want to meet my friends. I want to travel. That's a plan. Yeah, doing nothing is a plan. And that's where you start. Now, I am sure Christina comes across a lot of women, particularly in this region, who have a lot of talent, but they lack focus. They don't have a plan. Now, Christina is a very dry cut black and white woman. She wants people to be quite ambitious in order for them to achieve those plans. But then she has her own way in kind of bringing them together. That's why a mentor is important. And trim all the BS and stay focused on what is required from you to be able to achieve your plan. So if you have a plan, that's well and good. It's a kickstart. And if you don't have a plan, and if you want to put a plan together, that's okay. And if you don't have a plan, that's okay, because that's the plan, is to not have a plan.
I have a little interjection on that, Kaya, and I love the fact that it's you who asked the question. And my view is, and I having worked with a lot of women, and especially women as organized as Naila, the 3-year plan helps you to identify how relevant that mentor is for you, but also how you are relevant to them, because it's a two-way relationship. So being able to identify why you want that relationship and what they will help you with and the context that they have, and vice versa, why you're relevant to them, is just as important. So spending that time in doing it will help you actually achieve the mentorship, because when you go and ask someone, would you be my mentor? They're very flattered, but at the same time they could get concerned that, oh goodness, it might take a lot of my time. Whereas if it's caged, and if it's the proposition is very clear, look, we have parallel interests, you're an expert in your field, but I can teach you more about digital, for example. That makes a proposition for them that's appealing for their time too, if that makes sense. So I would encourage you to take that on board. I completely agree with Naila, but making a little bit of that time for yourself would be useful. Now, anyone else have any questions? So thank you for that, Kaya. We've got about 7 minutes left. Any more questions for the amazing Naila?
I would also want to add something to Kaya on that.
Sure.
As women, we have to have 2 plans, because I consider us as the primary gender, yeah?
Obviously.
So we have families, we nurture, we care, we reproduce. So there has to be a personal plan, and there has to be a professional plan. And sometimes they may conflict each other, but then that's okay. Oh, good. Then it gives you a little bit of perspective. It's okay, I want to take some time off and spend with my kids, but then I want to do my PhD. So how am I going to kind of work that together? So it's really important that we have these 2 plans, because we are the supergender.
Love it. Love that. Thank you for this. If you've got any questions, feel free now to type them up, or yep, there we go. Nadia, what's the best way to go about starting your plan? How can you be realistic? I have the problem of overkill. What does overkill mean, Nadia? Overkill of overthinking it, or if you can give us that. So what's the best way to start your plan, Naila? And then while she highlights what overkill means, we'll go to that.
Christina, you're the queen of mentorship here. And you're going to help her put her plan together.
It's the question. Well, there we go. I could do that. Thank you for that. And so overkill means I can achieve a lot more than I can. So why don't you take the question, Naila, because you are a distinguished guest. So what's the best way to go about starting your plan? How can you be realistic?
Okay, keep it to 3 plans a year, 3 things that you would want to do per year, depending on, and then each plan, put it as a small, medium, large. Okay, this is how I do it, because I could be a little bit too organized in that way. So you can't have 2 larges. You can have a small, medium, large. I'll send you like a key list of how can you put the small, medium on. You can have 3 smalls, and then you prioritize. It's okay, this is what I want to do for this year. Whatever else, then I can't put 2 larges, or I can't put 2 mediums, and so on. So you kind of sometimes being overly ambitious, Nadia, will also kind of derail us from what we want to achieve. There was also something really important that you've mentioned, Nadia. we could have a plan, and it's going to be like a huge plan. But if you want A, G, and M, that's your plan, you're not going to get from A to G by doing A, B, C, D, E, F, then G. You go from A to U to L to C and maybe get to G. But you will get to G. And that's what happened to me. So I wanted to get to the board. Sometimes you will end up getting to G before you actually to get to W before you get to G, because W was supposed to be after G, if you know what I mean. I hope I'm not being confusing to you, yeah? So, this is what happened with me with the boards. I had plans to get on boards, but then 3 boards came on 2019. That was not a part of my plan. So things will come to your track as soon as long as you have that radar of this is what you want to achieve. But just be a little bit smart about it and take it in bits and pieces, so you are not overwhelmed and discouraged, and then and then you feel like it's not working for you.
Great answer. And on that note of the boards, and you mentioned rejection and depression, I suppose a lot of people know of J.K. Rowling, whatever her name is, who wrote Harry Potter. What's it called? Harry Potter, right? You can tell how big a fan I am. But the reality of J.K. Rowling is that she was rejected many times. I think she has hundreds of rejections, and now it's become the world's biggest selling franchise. So sometimes other people might not necessarily see your vision, but you have to stick with it. And that's one of the reasons why I bring it back to Naila, because we were together, working together for over 5 years, and it all came at the same time. Despite the rejections, she stuck it out. And that's, for me, she's a great example of the resilience one needs, particularly around this moment now, around COVID-19, where we need that resilience and agility. So thank you for that, Naila. And as we're now reaching, we've got 3 more minutes to wrap up. I'm going to start the wrapping up and say thank you very much to the amazing Naila al Moosawi, who has been extraordinary. And I wish we could have this in person, but the benefit of it is that we've got so many in a virtual format. We've got so many women from different countries, by the way, because I've just seen now Amal is here and she's dialed in from Saudi. Welcome, Amal. So thank you so much to everyone who has been with us. We're not quite done yet, because we always have one final thing, which is, and by the way, Naila has sent her email to everyone, so you can connect with her. And Kaya, there you go. You've got her email, so you don't need me to connect you, even though I'm happy to do that. One final thing is our female Majlis selfie.